All Things Conceivable, a surrogacy podcast with Nazca Fontes.
Welcome back, listeners, to All Things Conceivable, where we share powerful stories of connection, empowerment, and so much more. Today's episode is incredibly special as we approach Mother's Day. And in honor of Mother's Day, we are celebrating two remarkable women whose lives became beautifully intertwined through surrogacy. Their story is one of strength and connection, and we're so honored to have Irene, a devoted mother who became a surrogate to help someone else feel the joy of parenthood, and Rebecca, the intended mom whose medical journey led her to surrogacy and ultimately to Irene. Their story is one of courage, trust, transformation, and ultimately love. And as we approach Mother's Day, their reflections on motherhood, both giving and receiving, are especially meaningful to us. Welcome both, Rebecca and Irene.
Hello.
Hello. Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
So happy to have you. What a celebration today. So I'm just going to dive right in. We've got a lot to cover. Rebecca, let's start with you. Tell me about you and your husband and your journey that led you to surrogacy as a path to parenthood.
Yes, so it all kind of started when I was in college. My freshman year, I was diagnosed with epilepsy. So meaning like grand mal seizures. I tried about every single medication out there and ultimately landed on only one that really worked for me, and unfortunately you cannot have children on it. So really no problems getting pregnant, but ultimately would not lead to a successful delivery and birth. So my husband and I always kind of knew from the start that surrogacy was the journey we were going to have to take.
So what started as a really scary episode as a young woman ultimately became one that was, a condition that was managed through the use of medication, thankfully, and you were able to thrive and live a healthy life, and you could even conceive. So there was nothing wrong with, your body in terms of being able to get pregnant. The danger really was in maintaining a pregnancy and delivering, and that it was just something that could not be done safely on the medication that kept you from living a life free of epilepsy. Is that correct?
That's correct. And I mean, when I say I tried every medication out there, I had, a lot of fight with other doctors wanting to put me on different medications just because of this reason specifically. And to me, although I've never been pregnant, I know just the added stress that pregnancy can put on your body. So thinking, if my body already can't handle itself on its own and could have seizures, being pregnant would just add that additional stress. And I don't think there would be really success in that anyways. So ultimately, yes, landed on this medication and just knew that surrogacy was the journey we would have to do.
And, in a way, I think that, and I certainly don't want to presume, but I imagine that early acceptance before you ever got to the juncture of saying, hey, we're ready to start the family, that early acceptance of knowing surrogacy was going to be your path to parenthood meant that you didn't have to go through years of struggling with fertility treatments of any kind. You just had that acceptance, right?
Exactly. And it's very interesting to me, and one reason I really wanted to do this podcast is that I do see that struggle in so many of my friends and what they're going through, really like IVF, IUI, and that struggle there. And so yes, that was something I didn't have to struggle with, besides just kind of, we got very lucky of just having to go through IVF once, and being very successful, and then just having, luckily, I mean, we only had to do the transfer one time with Irene. So overall, like when I see everyone around me and I see how difficult and how the struggles that everyone is going through, I feel like very, very lucky overall.
Although I'll since I know a little bit about your background story, Rebecca, I will tell our listeners and share with them that it wasn't completely without struggle, because when you and your husband decided to pursue surrogacy, you went the independent route first, and then ultimately decided to work with an agency because of some of the bumps in the road. If you could just very briefly explain to us what happened in that independent journey.
Yeah, so we weren't really sure. We kind of sought out and looked at a lot of agencies, and I had an amazing friend who had reached out and really wanted to be that surrogate for us, which we were so excited about, couldn't even believe it. And then once we really started diving in and, we started working with this amazing lawyer, really finding out really all the roadblocks and all the rules by state. And there were just so many things that were going to put a hinder on her and her family. And she had 2 young kids. And so we had started, she went and got checked out. Everything looked great. But then once kind of learning all the laws and regulations, realized, this really isn't something that my family and I can do at this time. So although we kind of had to start back over, we did learn a lot just working with the lawyer, finding out, again, all the laws that are out there and how much they differentiate by state. Okay, we're going to have to go this route now. I feel like we learned a lot. We're kind of starting back at square one, but knowing so much more going into this.
And eventually you and your husband decided to find your way, right, to
Yes.
conceivabilities. And Irene, and before we get into that part of the story, I want to pivot and turn our attention to the lovely Irene and allow her to share with us a little bit more about herself. So Irene, yes, tell us about yourself and your family.
Well, I have 4 kids of my own. Let's see. I've been with
4
my
amazing
husband.
kids.
4 yes, they're crazy and wild and amazing. They love to talk to Rebecca and Brian all the time. I have to constantly be like, no, they're in there, leave them alone. But yes, me and my husband met when we were in middle school. Been together since then. Got married in 2010, I believe. Yes, in 10. And just, I don't know. Everyone's always amazed. I was a teacher in my previous, not even previous, a while back. And my kids, my middle school kids were like, you met your husband in middle school? How does that happen? I'm like, it happens.
And not just middle school, 8th grade, right? 6th grade.
6th grade, yes. Yes, I met him in 6th grade.
And what is it that you knew right away when you met him in 6th grade?
It's weird because I tell my kids this all the time. I was I just knew he was the one. I don't know how to explain it. I saw him and I was yep, I'm going to marry him.
And you did, and had 4 beautiful kids.
Yes, I did.
So let's fast forward. You married your husband. You had 4 wonderful children. You became a teacher. What eventually got you to the why, and what inspired you to become a surrogate?
So I've had on both sides of my family, my aunts had ovarian cancer and they had to get everything taken out. I did reach out to my aunt one time and said, I'll carry your baby for you if you want me to. She only had 1 kid at that time, and she was like, I appreciate you so much, but at this time, me and your Theo don't really want to have another baby type stuff. That was half of my reason. Another reason was because my best friend had preeclampsia with both her kids, and she would love to have more kids than what she has now. I mean, her 2 of them right now are a blessing to her. But yeah, she was another one of my reasons why to do it. I just wanted to help other people, and I also love being pregnant, so.
I mean, like so many surrogates, right? But like so many surrogates, you witnessed firsthand someone close to you struggling to build a family. And, your Tia, right, your aunt, was one of those people closest to you. And, I think, too, it can be somewhat of a cultural pull. We hear from a lot of Latina surrogates that strong family roots and those values around family really inspire their decision to carry for someone else. And it sounds like that was certainly part of your story, too.
Yes, it is.
And do you think being a teacher in any way aligned with the value of being a surrogate? Do you have any connection to that through the lens of being a teacher?
I think it does. Just in the aspect of like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like kids are my life. I would love to see them happy. I hate when I guess kids are sad. So for me, it's like when I met Rebecca and Brian, I kind of knew like they were the ones that they were going to be like amazing parents just from talking to them, like literally automatically. I think it was the intro meeting, Rebecca, or
Yes.
right? It was like
Yes.
we were both nervous on both ends, and it was just kind of like right after I got off, I looked at my husband and he looked at me, and I was like, they're the ones, like we found them. This is who I want to help. So I guess being a teacher, naturally you're just a helper.
Sure. I mean, I think, and I love this story. I always love hearing how the match came together. And it's oftentimes, people do approach it nervously, almost like a first date. I know that sounds a little
Yes.
cheeky, but it's true.
Yes.
Both sides are
It
very
is very
nervous.
true.
They're trepidatious. And then so often both sides walk away saying, absolutely, that's the one. Intuitively, there's this draw to one another. Mm-hmm. And, that's part of the alchemy of the matching that we do behind the scenes. But, Rebecca, tell us how that experience was for you and Brian.
Oh my gosh. I just remember getting off and feeling so giddy and excited. But yes, so we had that first meeting. And yes, we were both extremely nervous. And as soon as we kind of started talking, I feel like things just started flowing. We had a lot of things in common, I think. And Irene, correct me if I'm wrong, it's kind of funny. I mentioned something about goats and wanting a goat farm, and Irene was like, we had goats, and like immediately we were like drawn to each other. And it was really interesting too, because going into it, I had no idea, but I was born in San Antonio, Texas, even though I live in Chicago now. And we got on with them and found out they actually live in San Antonio, Texas. So I was like, oh my gosh, my son would be born where I was born. But just talking with them and hearing Irene explain why she was doing it was just so meaningful. Like, I think I got off the call and cried. Like, I couldn't believe the type of person she was. I remember her just saying, like, I'm just, this is your baby. I just want to bring, that Christmas morning feel. I'm just a vessel, and for you to bring this into your bundle of joy into the world. And after, my husband and I got off the call, and same thing, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, oh my gosh, that was amazing. And I remember just calling my mom, my aunts, and everyone was on the phone crying. They were so excited, and we were just like, I really hope that they feel the same way. I think that they do, but you like you said, it's kind of like a first date, you don't know. So we were just so overjoyed, but didn't want to get our hopes up because we just thought they were the perfect match.
So, Irene, you've met your intended parents. You've had 4 children of your own. You've experienced people around you struggling with fertility. This is definitely something that you wanted to do. You found what you think is a great match. But how did you actually prepare for your first surrogacy journey, both mentally and emotionally?
Truthfully, I prayed. I prayed a lot. I'm a very spiritual person when it comes to God. I prayed to see if this was a good idea for me and my family, but mentally I just kind of like Rebecca said, like I went in saying, I know this is not my baby. I'm doing this because I want you to feel that feeling. The moment when you put that baby on your chest, it's like that instant love is basically what I wanted for them. So preparing, I guess, myself and my family, it was, I guess for my father, or for my family, and especially my father, was a little hard because he was not, I don't even know how to explain it, not so much informed, but like he didn't understand exactly where what was happening or how it was going to be. And it was hard in that aspect. But for me, it's like, no, I know why I'm doing it. I know that I want to make someone happy. I want someone to have the happiness that I have. That's what I really wanted.
I'm curious about your dad. Did your dad ever meet Rebecca and Brian? And how did he come along in terms of acceptance?
They did. They actually met whenever, I think it was like 2 weeks before
Yeah.
we had little dude. We all sat down together. Their family and my family came together and they met. But before that, like, I had to like sit down with my dad and be like, look, this is very scientific, Dad. Like, there's every girl has the egg, every boy has the sperm, type thing. Like, I had to go back to the basics with my father to be like, it is not my egg. It is not, you know what I mean? It's not going to be part of me. I'm giving someone their part of them, I guess I had said to him. And once he understood a little bit more, he was more, I mean, I don't want to say accepting because he was accepting of what I was going to do regardless, but he was more understanding, like, oh, okay. And then meeting Rebecca and Brian and meeting their I think it was your mom, yeah, the moms and Brian's sister, it was like, oh, okay, like, he understood why.
I think that's such a beautiful thing because, whether it's a cultural, difference or a generational difference, I think, often families do have to come along and the process and understanding grows over time. For many, it's not immediate. And I think many surrogates kind of face that, challenge in getting greater acceptance around them, not just, their immediate family or their husband or their children. Acceptance often has to grow around them. And so I think your dad is just a great example of that. And I love that you shared that with us. Let's talk a little bit about how, because we can all hear in your voice how you feel about each other now, maybe the insecurities of the early days, but how did the two of you nurture your relationship and your bond together over the course of working through getting ready for embryo transfer and then actual pregnancy? How did you guys nurture your relationship with one another?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So I would say it was, first we were just, met over FaceTime, over the phone. And then I think the first time them coming up here, I think for Irene, for you to get checked out, it was really great just having that first time to really sit down and meet each other in person and just see like, oh my gosh, she's just such a kind soul. So for us, that was kind of like the first steps. And then they were able to come up here again for the actual transfer. Every time they came up, we would try at least to go to dinner. We had them over to our place the second time and really just sat down and talked. And it was so nice just how overall the conversation was so easy flowing. They were so easy to talk to, just so understanding. I think we were all very excited. And then if I'm being completely honest, I was, especially in the beginning, it was really hard for me. I was almost kind of saw it as like a business transaction because of that fear of, this might not work. I don't want to get too attached because I've seen so many people around me struggle with this that I just know what goes into it. So until I think it was probably about 20 weeks, Brian and I decided to go down to Texas for the 20 weeks appointment. And I feel like that was the first time once I saw him on the screen, saw everything looked great. I really allowed myself to get really excited. Like, okay, this is real. This is happening. I still understand that there are things that can happen. There's things that can develop, but that was kind of the first time I really let myself get excited and kind of throw my full self into it. We spent, I think, a couple days down there, and that was the first time we met their whole family. So all of their kids that were just so amazing. And I think meeting your children made us fall in love with them so much more. We went to dinner, and I think I ended up, I don't even know, I think we ended up there for like a few hours. I was playing like cornhole with her two youngest for probably like an hour and a half. We had so much fun, but her kids are just, you could see them, her kids, like Irene and Nick and her kids, and her kids were all so different and just loving and so excited about it as well, that it just made Brian and I that much more excited and love them so much more.
And Irene, I'm curious, Irene, did you sense any of that initial sort of, I'll call it a resistance, right? I mean, Becca, you called it more like treating it initially as a transaction coming from a place of fear almost.
Yes.
Irene, did you sense any of that? Like she wasn't allowing herself to fully emotionally jump in the beginning?
Yes, I actually did. And it wasn't like wrong, but we were very open and transparent with one another. So she would tell me too, like, my friend just did this and this has just happened with them. And I would have to like tell myself to tell her, like, it's okay. Like, he's okay in there. Like, I promise you, he's good. And it was a constant like reassurance to her, and them just in general. 'Cause I know I get the fear. I've had, a miscarriage before too. There's multiple things could go wrong in situations like that, but I just had to constantly just be like, Rebecca, he's fine. Like, I got this. He's okay. He's good. So I did notice around when they did come the 20-week one that you could see, like, how you just like, you could breathe. Like, I could just see like she just, when they were there, I was in the back, we were the specialist and I was in the back and they were kind of like doing my stomach or putting the ultrasound there, and they were like little kids watching TV, like something they really like. It was so cute. I was like, a little tear came down, and I was telling my husband, I was like, oh my God, that was like the best feeling ever, just seeing them look at their son on that screen, and you could tell they're just like, oh, they could breathe finally.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. I think what you've described are the hallmarks of any important, well-connected relationships, right? And that is transparency, communication, honesty, sometimes having challenging or difficult conversations that always come from a place of warmth or love. And you guys navigated that, right? You found your way forward. And I'm sure there were some challenging times. Were there any challenging parts of the surrogacy journey? And if there were, how did you navigate them?
I don't think, for me on my end, I don't feel like there was so many challenging parts. I understand that they had their own lives and they were trying to wrap everything up. Like, some appointments, I would be like, hey guys, this is the time. And then they're like, oh my God, I was at work. I was like, completely understand. Don't. And I would send them the videos and stuff. But for me, I've always seen it on my end. It was like a godsend. Like, God just put it into place and everything just seemed so smooth for me. I don't know. That was just my experience.
Yeah, Irene was so amazing throughout of it, with like all of the updates, all of the pictures, all the videos, like letting us know, like, oh, maybe like I can't let you FaceTime, or the doctors won't let us FaceTime during this one, but then giving us updates afterwards. And yeah, she made it so smooth and seamless. And this was our first child, so we had no idea what to expect or to know, and she was just so great, I feel like, about explaining everything to us and like telling us what to expect, and make sure you bring this, make sure you have this when we come to the hospital, this is gonna happen. And like she said, it was like a godsend having her kind of walk us through everything, and it just made everything seamless.
Right.
Like she
Well,
said,
this is a woman who has run classrooms and run households with 4 children. I mean, she's run the show. She's highly organized. And I think a lot of intended parents are surprised by the way their surrogates are so structured. It's really incredible.
It really was. Like, I still remember Irene, like, multiple times, here's your checklist that you need to bring to the hospital. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have never known. Or like just telling us things that, people don't tell you, or things that you don't expect. And she was always just so calm and collected through all of it, which made it also that much easier.
So Rebecca and Irene both, I mean, it sounds like a terrific match. And Rebecca, you are about to celebrate your first Mother's Day. Congratulations.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Irene.
Of course, this is now the moment everybody always wants to hear about. So tell us about the moment of your son's birth, what that felt like in the moment when you finally met Roman.
Oh, yes. So I remember just like making sure we were able to be there. we thought maybe he was going to come a little bit earlier. I remember Nick like texting us on the side, like, Irene doesn't want you to know, but she's getting a little nervous. Like, you guys might want to come early. And so we did end up like changing our flights to come down a little bit earlier. But of course, he was stubborn, probably like me, and, you know, held out like another week or so or 5 days. And then she ended up getting induced. So we went in, I think, at like 5 in the morning. And this is just Brian and I, like, we all met for dinner the night before with the kids and everything, and went out, had a great time playing a bunch of games at this great place. And then they were like, oh, we'll see you at 5 tomorrow. And of course, Brian and I don't know why, again, not knowing, we're like, okay, 5 p.m. Yeah. And luckily I have both Nick and Irene, like, where it makes, like, if they text me, it goes off. So I think at like 4 something in the morning, my phone's going off, and they're like, we're on the way to the hospital. And Brian and I jump out of bed. We're like, oh my gosh. Like, I literally had said to Brian the night before, do you think they mean 5 a.m.? Probably a question we should have asked. But, and so we just like threw everything in the bag, ran to the hospital. Luckily, we were only a couple minutes away from the hospital where we were staying. And then we got there, and it felt like time just kind of flew by. Like, I remember sitting there in the dark, quiet room, and it was like 5 a.m. Next thing I knew, it was 9 a.m. And Irene was just so calm and cool and collected through all of it. Like, I'm like up every once in a while, like, what's going on? What does this mean? So then he came around 5 p.m. I think he was born at 5, like 5:11. So she was there for 12 hours, right? And then it was so funny once it actually happened. It was just like everyone swarmed the room. I swear the doctor came out of the wall, and she had run there, so she's like breathing like super heavy. They're like putting everything on her, and like everything just went so quickly. And I was so nervous in that point. There had been so much build up to this point, and it's just like, okay, this is the last thing that just has to go well, you know, like there's so much lying on this. But she was amazing through it. Like, again, like, I can't stop saying just how calm she was. And Irene was great because she was very, very adamant about, like, as soon as he comes out, I want him to go right to Rebecca. Like, you know, skin on skin contact, and like kept just reiterating that to the doctors and making that a very important point throughout, which was really great that she was really pushing that and really driving that and letting them know. She's like, you guys have a room for her, right? You have this, you know. So as soon as he was born, everything went perfectly. We were, again, extremely, extremely lucky. Irene, you know, was her 5th pregnancy, so she knew what she was doing, which was great, and like really put me at ease. And yeah, then he was born. He came right into my arms. And then, yep, we were in the next room, and I think we were in there maybe for an hour. And then afterwards, we all kind of came together again. And I was like, you want to hold him? And just kind of like handed him to Irene. And we just kind of all sat and talked for a little bit before going upstairs. It was amazing. I couldn't have like asked for anything better.
And Irene, how was that experience for you to be able to share in that moment with Rebecca?
In that moment, it was everything. I think Rebecca had mentioned that I was very adamant. It's so like, I want her skin to skin. I want baby to go to Rebecca first. And that was, I would tell my husband, that was like, I guess, my full circle. Like, yes, there was there wasn't struggles, but, you know, being pregnant, it puts this a wear on your body. And for me, it was like, when I saw her with him, oh, I'm going to cry. When I saw her with him, it was like, it meant everything to me, because that's exactly what I wanted. That's what I envisioned in this whole journey, like, to seeing their instant love, and just, it was everything I hoped for. Me and my husband were crying, just staring at them. I'm pretty sure they didn't notice because they were just so in awe of him, which is like, I was just like, it was I don't even know how to explain it. Like, it meant so
Yeah.
much to see that.
And Rebecca, as I mentioned, of course, your first Mother's Day, and what a blessing. And beyond the meaning of becoming a mother for the first time, and the obvious in the way that this experience has changed you in becoming a parent and a mother, can you point to something additional for our listeners specific to surrogacy that says, my understanding about humanity has also changed because of this? And, what would that understanding be?
I think it's just, that unconditional love. Like, not only did we find that for our son, it's a brand new feeling, something great, but then also having that connection with the Sorianos, like someone that's willing to do this, and just meeting just an amazing family, and always having that connection and that bond. Like, someone that's willing to do that is a huge thing, especially for someone going into that you don't even know them. But then creating that bond with them was a totally different and new kind of found love. And then also having that newfound love, like unconditional love for our son that we had not known before. So it was kind of two new kinds of love and feeling that, you get in one. You're not only the unconditional love, but also a new other kind of love for this amazing family that will always be part of our lives.
How about some advice for folks who might be either considering doing surrogacy as their path to parenthood, or for those who, maybe even more importantly, view or have some skepticism about surrogacy? What would your advice to them be?
My advice would be do it. But besides that, be very, just open-minded. Do some research, talk to some people. It's an amazing journey. I actually have a friend now that has been reaching out because she is looking into surrogacy now, because they've been through IUI, they've been through IVF multiple times, and it's just not going to work for them. So, I've sent her over so much information about conceivabilities, and just talking about like how great the whole process was, how easy conceivabilities made it for us. It seems so daunting going into it, but really, like, it was a lot easier than anticipated, just because you have so much support around you, and everyone's looking out for you, and they have your best interest at heart. So, you're gaining so much more than just a child. And there are scary times, but in the end, it really outweighs any sort of negative. And so I think just really informing yourself, asking a lot of questions, and just putting yourself at ease.
And Irene, I'm sure that there's probably some similar sentiments you have, but you described early on in this conversation the skepticism of your dad and how you brought him along. And, if you had a message for other women who are considering becoming a surrogate, what would you want them to know?
I think, like Rebecca said, just do your research. Make sure you have a strong support system, like a strong foundation. Because if you have people questioning your life, because I remember going into the conversation with my parents, like, this is what I'm going to do. It was even before I met with Rebecca and Brian. Like, I sat down with my parents. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. Either you're going to be with me on it, or I don't have to talk to you for the next, 9-10 months. Like, a good support system is a must. Mm-hmm. And I think having a relationship with the IPs is helpful as well. But research, support system for sure. But other than that, I think going in wholeheartedly.
Well, now I'm going to put both of you on the spot a little bit as a beautiful wrap up to this lovely conversation on Mother's Day. And that is, first, Irene. Mm-hmm. On this Mother's Day, what's the message that you want to share specifically with Rebecca and to Rebecca?
Is to enjoy it, relax. You're gonna make mistakes. It's natural. but don't blink, because I promise you it's going to go by so fast.
And Rebecca, having gone through this miraculous path to parenthood with a spectacular human being in Irene, what message do you want to send to Irene on this Mother's Day?
I'm crying now. I cannot thank you enough. I can't believe where we're at right now, and it's all because of you and Nick. And it truly means the world to us. 9-10 months ago, it didn't seem real or like this would happen, but we're here now, and we have you to thank for that. And we hope that you guys will always be in our lives, because you really gave us the world.
That is so beautiful. Ladies, Irene, Rebecca, thank you so much for sharing your story with me today. I know our listeners will really enjoy listening to this podcast. And to both of you, I'm wishing you a beautiful Mother's Day and a well-deserved one. Enjoy it. And as Irene said, enjoy every minute, because yes, I think that the sentiment is that the days go by slow, but the years go by fast. Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Yeah, happy
everyone.
Mother's Day.
At Conceivabilities, we believe that everyone who wants to become a parent can. Our agency has helped build thousands of families for nearly 25 years. Whether you are an intended parent ready to fulfill your family destiny, a surrogate answering your calling, or an egg donor wanting to expand what's possible in your life, we are your people. See how matching matters. Learn more by joining our Surrogacy Learning Center community at surrogacylearningcenter.conceivabilities.com.